the year 476 CE, the Western Roman Empire collapsed. Across much of Europe, libraries closed, literacy withered, and science stalled. But knowledge does not die. It travels, sometimes quietly, in the hands of refugees, sometimes boldly, in the cargo of conquerors. In the East, Byzantium keep Greek texts alive in their original tongue. In Persia, the Sasanian Empire translated Indian and Greek works into Middle Persian. And in a city most have never heard of, John de Chapeau, in modern-day Iran, Nestorian Christian scholars, Persian doctors, and ancient mathematicians worked side by side. Then came the 7th century. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, message united the Arabian Peninsula. Within a century, Muslim rule stretched to Spain from Central Asia. With it came an unprecedented idea that the pursuit of knowledge was a religious duty. Caliphs and governors ordered the collection of books from every land they ruled. Greek philosophical treatises from Alexandria, Sanskrit astronomy from Eugene, Persian fables, Coptic medical texts. The idea was not merely to preserve, but to absorb and surpass. The Persian translation of the Indian Siddhanta was commissioned by Caliph al-Mansur in the 8th century and later rendered into Arabic as Al-Sindant. The fable collection Kalila wa Dimna, translated from Sanskrit to Middle Persian to Arabic, became the most widely read book in the medieval Islamic world after the Quran. This was the true spark of what the West would later call the Muslim Golden Age, and it began decades before Baghdad was even founded. In 762 CE, Caliph al-Mansur founded Baghdad, but it was under his great-grandson Al-Mamun that the city became something the world had never seen, a city dedicated to knowledge. Bayt al-Hikmah, the House of Wisdom, was part library, part university, part translation bureau, part think tank. Here, scholars were paid gold for every book they translated to Arabic, not word for word, but with commentary, corrections, and new discoveries. Hunayn ibn Ishaq, 808 to 873, Nestorian Christian physician, translated over 100 works of Galen, wrote 10 treatises on the eye. Thabit ibn Khurra, 836 to 901, Sabian mathematician and astronomer, discovered new theorems in number theory and mechanics. Banu Musa brothers authored Kitab al-Khayal, the book of ingenious devices, describing 100 mechanical inventions. Some Greek works we reverse today by Aristotle, Galen, Ptolemy survived only because they passed through the pens of these scholars. Without them, the Renaissance would have had nothing to rediscover. In 2018, researchers found that certain diagrams in surviving Arabic manuscripts have no counterpart in any known Greek text, proof that Muslim scholars were not merely copying, but innovating. The most important invention for the spread of knowledge wasn't the telescope. It wasn't the printing press. It was paper. In 751 CE, Muslim forces clashed with the Chinese Tang army at the Battle of Talas. Among the prisoners were paper makers. The craft spread first to Samarkand, then Baghdad. By the 9th century, Baghdad had the first paper mill in the Islamic world. Compared to parchment, paper was cheap, light, and perfect for diagrams. Libraries multiplied. In Baghdad, there were entire markets for books. The Souk al-Warakin in Cordoba, A library claimed to hold over 400,000 volumes. Paris, by comparison, had barely 1,000. During colonial expansions, tens of thousands of these manuscripts were looted. Today, many sit untranslated, and with British Library, the Bibliothèque Nationale de France, and the Escorial in Spain. Algebra, algorithms, even the number 0. These are not European inventions. Al-Khwarizmi, 850, wrote Al-Kitab al-Mukhtasar fi Hisab al-Jabr wal-Muqabla, introduced systematic solutions of linear and quadratic equations, Latinized as algorithmy. Al-Karaji developed early algebraic proofs, mathematical induction. Omar Khayyam classified cubic equations, designed the Jalali calendar, more accurate than the Gregorian. Al-Kashi calculated pi to 16 decimal places using polygon approximation, centuries before Ludolf van Zuylen. Fibonacci openly stated in Liber Abaci, 1202, that he learned mathematics in Bijaya, Algeria. European resistance to zero was so strong that in Florence, 1299, merchants were banned from using Arabic numerals. Muslim astronomers inherited Ptolemy's model and then fixed it. Al-Battani measured the solar year to within 2 minutes of modern value. Al-Zarqali invented the universal astrolabe, compiled Toledo tables. Al-Biruni measured Earth's radius using mountain shadow method. Ibn al-Shathir produced planetary models identical to Copernicus 200 years earlier. Copernicus' diagrams for the moon's motion match Ibn al-Shathir's model line by line, suggesting direct borrowing. The Latin manuscripts omit his name. The Canon of Medicine by Ibn Sina was the medical textbook of Europe for 500 years, but it was only one jewel in a vast medical tradition. Al-Zahrawi, 30-volume Al-Tasrif, with illustrated surgical tools. Ibn al-Nafis described pulmonary circulation centuries before William Harvey. Women healers. Rufaida al-Aslamia, 7th century. Zainab al-Shahra, 12th century. Many Galenic texts taught in medieval Europe were actually translations of Arabic originals falsely attributed to Greek authors. For centuries, European scholars acknowledged their debt to Arabic science. Then, slowly, the names began to vanish. Gerald of Cremona's translation to Ibn al-Haytham, Al-Hazan, Al-Hassan, omitted in later editions. In the 18th century, scholars like Joseph Needham documented suppressed Arabic origins. The Mongols burnt Baghdad in 1258, casting thousands of books into the Tigris. The ink was said to blacken the river for days. Algebra, hospitals, the scientific method. They were not born in the West. They were translated from Arabic, built in Baghdad, perfected in Cordoba, and carried on the winds of trade and conquest. They tried to erase the names, but history remembers. And now, so will you.